Why doesn't he show some guts, call this meeting so the premiers can tell him to shove his carbon tax where his poll numbers are, in the gutter?
House of Commons sessions are finally back in order, and would you believe it, a Conservative calls Justin Trudeau a narcissist in the House of Commons. This is quite possibly one of the greatest moments in the House of Commons, at least recently. Let's jump into this.
Well, we do have a common sense Conservative plan to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. While this Prime Minister is not worth the cost after 8 years on inflation, with all his multi-billion-dollar announcements, he is like the pyromaniac pretending to be a fireman, except the hose is spraying gas on the inflationary fire rather than water. According to the Scotiabank's chief economist, these inflationary deficits are driving up mortgage payments. Doesn't he realize that all of his spending is putting the heat and the costs on our homeowners?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has a plan for an affordable and prosperous future. We have a plan that is focused on ensuring that we are building more homes faster, making life more affordable, and growing an economy that works for all Canadians. The Conservative leader has no plan for affordability other than a bunch of taglines. He has no plan for addressing the environment. He has no plan for the economy. We believe in ensuring that Canadians have a fair chance to succeed, and we are acting on that.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, our plan is to axe the tax and cap the spending to bring down inflation and interest rates. We will have a carbon tax election, and people will choose whether they want to quadruple the tax to 61 cents with the NDP and the Prime Minister, or axe the tax under my common sense leadership. And in the meantime, people can't afford to eat. So will the Prime Minister show a little bit of compassion and accept my common sense demand to axe the tax on farmers and food?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, it is laughable when I hear the Conservative leader talk about affordability. He mentioned in the previous question some concerns he has around housing policy. His plan to build more homes is to cut investments in home building, is to raise taxes on those who are building homes, and when it comes to actually changing the way cities build homes, his deputy leader held a press conference to explicitly declare that Conservatives were siding with the NIMBYs when it comes to zoning reform. We are going to do what's necessary to put money on the table to build more affordable housing, create market conditions to get more homes built, and change the way that cities build homes so we can solve the housing crisis.
Great market conditions to get houses built. Wow, this guy, I can't believe he just at the beginning of that brought up housing affordability. Gumby here has created the problem with the immigration. Then as housing minister, it's just deplorable, and like, this guy lives in Spaceland. It's very sad to see there's a very, very select few liberals who still think this guy's great, and people are like, oh, he should be the next prime minister. It's just like, really? This guy's an absolute disaster. He is a disaster.
Opposition.
He caused the housing crisis, Mr. Speaker. Under his role as housing minister, the amount of a paycheck necessary to make payments on an average mortgage is gone up to a record smashing 64% from 38%. And he is the only one, along with his prime minister, that wants to raise taxes on home building. A massive carbon tax on the building materials that go into assembling those homes. So, will the Prime Minister, instead of hiking the tax, accept my common sense demand to axe the tax on farmers, food, and houses at the same time?
So just to break that down here real quick. So basically, Sean Fraser is saying that the Conservatives want to bring back the tax onto home builders, where they have removed the GST off of home builders. Essentially, Justin Trudeau's probably got buddies who are home builders, and thus removing the GST off of them makes his buddies more rich. When in reality, you just need a housing situation in Canada where all the bureaucrats and the red tape are out of the way, and builders can just build. The more builders build and they can sell houses and make tons of money, they don't need to have the GST removed off of that process. So sure, removing that helps them a bit, but that's not the problem. The problem is we have way too much demand with the immigration. And so the Conservatives just want to bring it back in line. Obviously, Trudeau is just probably helping out his builder buddies.
Mr. Speaker, it's interesting because he's actually put his plan on the record, and his plan includes putting the GST back on apartment construction for hundreds of thousands of middle-class homes in this country. He has one of the worst records in the past decade of anyone when it comes to getting homes built when he had the position responsible for housing in Parliament. Mr. Speaker, while he was minister, they built exactly 0 new apartments, 0 cooperative units, and only 6 affordable housing units across the entire country. We are helping get hundreds of thousands of homes built in this country, and we will do what it takes to solve the crisis once and for all.
You got Bolsonaro down here. It's like six units. Unbelievable. These guys are all in like their thespian drama class here. Sean Fraser, man, you have the worst record ever. Housing was like $1,300 a month for a mortgage back when Poilievre was housing minister.
The honourable member for La Prairie. After Pharmac.
So they just go into French here for a bit. Now we'll jump forward.
Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Last week, this woke Prime Minister hiked his carbon tax scam 23%, despite a majority of Canadians making him spike the hike. As we see record-smashing food bank usage across the country, farmers will pay another $1 billion into this scam, making the cost of groceries even more expensive. After 8 years, this Liberal NDP government is not worth the cost or corruption. Will he finally axe the tax for farmers and food and pass Bill C-234 in its original form in next week's budget, or is his agenda to push even more families into the food banks?
They're trying to bring back that bill to take off the tax off farmers.
I'd like to know if members of the Conservative Party who come from Alberta have paid particular attention to what Premier Danielle Smith said about the Canada carbon rebate when she said she manages the finances of her own house, and it turns out that the Canada carbon rebate gives her family more money than she puts in the price on pollution. And guess what? She lives in rural Alberta, so she gets even more, Mr. Speaker. That's the plan. I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Such a nut.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
What we'd like to know is what his next job is, because after the next election, maybe this carbon tax scam will be gone. Now there's 6 premiers that are demanding a carbon tax meeting, because they all know after 8 years, this Liberal NDP government are like this carbon tax scam and not worth the cost. Why is this Prime Minister hiding? Why doesn't he show some guts, call this meeting so the premiers can tell him to shove his carbon tax where his poll numbers are, in the gutter?
I know we've been away for a couple weeks, and we're looking forward to seeing each other, but try to keep our comments as reasonable as possible. The Honourable Minister of Employment and Workforce Development.
Mr. Speaker, it's nice to see how focused that particular MP is on me and my career. Guess what? My colleagues on this side of the aisle and me, we are focused on the people of Edmonton Centre. We're focused on Albertans. We're focused on Canadians, making sure they can pay their bills, making sure they have good jobs, making sure that we're fighting climate change, having a national school program. What they're doing is just bluff and bluster and lots of hot air. We're going to be here fighting for Canadians each and every day.
Bluff and bluster? Who uses those kind of words, man? Was this guy from 1812?
Member for Haldimand, Norfolk.
After 8 years.
Things kind of settle down here. We're going to jump ahead. Next up here, Jamil Javani, who was just elected in the by-election in Durham. Conservative, finally gets to speak at his first session here in the House of Commons.
The Honourable Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, Durham Region is home to many millennials who dream of owning a house one day. For 8 years, this Prime Minister has been promising affordable housing, and yet things are only getting worse. Millennials know this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. The Liberal NDP government continues to announce expensive photo ops in the lead up to the federal budget. But we know, as millennials, that we deserve better.
That's right.
How can we ever believe any of these broken promises from the Liberal NDP government again?
Well said, man. He speaks well, too.
Mr. Speaker, let me begin by offering my my sincere congratulations to our newest colleague in the House of Commons. It's wonderful to have you here. What he may not realize, Mr. Speaker, being new to the House, is that his leader is actively campaigning on commitments to build fewer homes than we are already projected to build. He may not realize that the Conservative leader has promised to raise taxes on home building. He may not realize the Conservative leader has pledged to cut funding for home building, and he may not realize that his party held a press conference last week to say that they don't want to do anything on municipal reforms and have decided to side with the NIMBYs. Mr. Speaker, over his time here, I hope he comes to see the light and gets with a plan that will build more homes.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this Liberal Prime Minister's radical safe supply agenda, we see lives being put at risk. After this NDP Liberal government decriminalized hard drugs, nurses now in northern British Columbia are being told to allow patients to use hard drugs in their rooms and have weapons in their hospital rooms. This, Mr. Speaker, is unfair and unsafe for workers and patients. Mr. Speaker, when will this Prime Minister wake up and realize that his radical drug policy just isn't worth the cost?
Honourable Minister of...
Yeah, and this is the David Eby NDP government in BC here that we need to get rid of. The election in BC, the provincial election, is on October 24th, I believe, and that is our chance to get rid of him. So if anyone is a Conservative out there, if anyone's on the fence out there, by all means, watch my videos, watch other videos, learn a bit about what's going on here. We have to get David Eby out of power.
Mental health and addictions.
Mr. Speaker, every healthcare worker in this country deserves to be safe in their place of work. That's why this government passed legislation exactly for that reason. I too am concerned about the reports and expect the BC government to take the necessary actions to address the concerns raised by healthcare providers. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we're saving lives. On that side of the House, they're busy with slogans and stigma.
The honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, 300% more government-issued opioids are being seized by police in British Columbia. More drugs on the street mean the street prices for opioids are falling across this country, and that's what we're seeing. This delusional NDP Liberal government wants you to think that giving out free drugs to our most vulnerable is a cure. But Canadians know this is nonsense. When will this narcissistic Prime Minister, who's not worth the cost, crime or corruption, end this cruel and disastrous...
I can't believe he said that. That's unbelievable.
I'll remind honourable members to be judicious in their. I will let the honourable member maybe rephrase that. The honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
You know what, Mr. Speaker, what I would like to say here is, given the fact that I practice as a physician a long time, that's the diagnosis, Mr. Speaker.
Trudeau can suck that.
Maybe we'll have a quick chat after question period. The honourable minister.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservatives want to sow fear and stigma, on this side of the House, we know that we have to stick to the facts. The RCMP says there is no evidence to suggest widespread diversion of drugs from prescribed alternatives is happening. However, prescribed alternatives are not the issue, Mr. Speaker. Any diversion is illegal in this country, whether it's medication for ADHD, pain management, or anything else. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker. 70% of the overdose deaths are from an illegal toxic poison supply, and I challenge the member to actually read the data.
I challenge her to go down to West Hastings and Hastings in Maine and Vancouver and say, you're not going to win that argument there. Go down there. If anyone's not familiar, Main Street and West Hastings in Vancouver is like drug central. And it has only gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. I used to live just a few blocks from there, and it is gnarly. The situation does not get better. That's all the interesting stuff from the House of Commons session today. Now let's jump over here to X, and we'll take a look at a few things here. We got Stephen Guilbeault. Contrary to popular belief, battery electric vehicles hold up well in cold regions. Just ask friends in Norway, who ranked #1. You can't. So Norway, the reason why they have a lot of electric vehicles is because the distance they drive is much, much smaller. So we look at Norway. First, we've got Norway here, right? It's a skinny little country and it's quite long, but the thing is most of the population lives down here, right? We can see here the red is where the majority of the population is here and here. Basically, there's not a lot going up there. So if we look at this, we've got Oslo, which is the main city, the biggest city, I believe. So if we just go to somewhere else in Norway, so the population is basically right here, or it's up in this bit up here. And that's it. So it's 5 hours up to the other section. And if you're staying down here, I mean, yeah, so it's only an hour from Oslo over there. If we go over here, it's like 2 hours. So most people are living down here. It's only a couple hours of drive. And this other area that's more populated is 5 or 6 hours drive up there. So, I mean, first off, there's not a lot of driving that distance-wise. It's not like Canada, right, where there's just this huge, vast land to drive across. And not only that, is Norway has more subsidies getting people to buy EVs. I think 87% of cars bought now in Norway are EVs. Thing is, there's other things. You get free parking. You can drive in bus lanes. There's all sorts of benefits if you buy an EV there. They're actually finding they're creating inequality between rich and poor now because they've pushed this so much, and it's actually hurting their goal now of trying to get people to take the bus and public transit and riding bikes. So they're pulling back those subsidies now. There's an article here on Vox. You can see why Norway, the poster child of electric cars, is having second thoughts, and it basically says right here. So I flew across the Atlantic to see what the fuss was about. I discovered a Norwegian EV bonanza that has indeed reduced emissions at the expense of compromising vital societal goals. Eye-popping EV subsidies have flowed largely to the affluent, contributing to the gap between rich and poor in a country proud of its egalitarian social polities. Worse, the EV boom has hobbled Norwegian cities' efforts to untether themselves from automobile and enable residents to instead travel by transit or bicycle. Decisions that do more to reduce emissions, enhance road safety, and enliven urban life than swapping a gas-powered car for an electric one. So you can see here, it's not all sunshine and rainbows as Stephen Guilbeault likes to make it out to be. Canada is just a much bigger country. If you drive from one side of Canada to the other, there you go, 65 hours. And that's going through America. That's cheating. We're going to put this up here. There we go. 67 hours. That's a little bit different than, Norway driving across in 5 hours. Now, sure, if you drive to the top of Norway, I'm sure it was a little bit more than that. So one side to the other, can you even get up there? Anyways, 30 hours, as you can see, it's half as far as the distance of Canada, and most people don't live up here. They all live down here, so. And finally here, we've got a clip of Justin Trudeau comparing himself to Wayne Gretzky. This is disgraceful.
And seeing where the puck is going, well, I can talk about a great Edmonton Oiler who did a very good job of that for many years. I know we're not going to get too many Oilers fans here, the Canadian genius is to go where the puck is going, not where it is right now. The world is changing, and Albertans can and should be at the forefront of that. And that's exactly where I'm going to be always, with an outreached hand and partnership to build.
You bet he's going to be with an outreach hand, reaching into our pockets and stealing our money. This guy called himself a genius, and he attributed himself to the same level as Wayne Gretzky in the same sentence. This is just gross. I hope Gretzky sues this guy. And the start here, too.
And seeing where the puck is going, well.
Gross. It's just so gross, that cheese bucket smile we all hate. Look at this greasy grease. This is just one of the grossest Trudeau clips, and that's one of the greasiest, grossest smiles he's got.
And seeing where the puck is going, well. Talk about a great Edmonton.
We got to jump over to my group here real quick. We can't end this one on that kind of note, so we need some good old-fashioned memes here. No, he's your son. No, he's your son. When you actually... I'm not saying that. Acceptable view. Yeah, I hope so. Here we got some gas prices in White Rock, that's just outside of Vancouver. $152. You can see here regular $2.13. It's actually, some of them are $2.16. Crazy. In my daddy's belly. What is this, like that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Junior back in the day? It's not the tumor. Get out, get down. Everybody chill out. Get under the table. Everybody chill, freeze, cool it. Oh, that's from Batman. If being unpopular was an Olympic sport, this man would be tested for steroids. The yellow-bellied sapsucker. The yellow-bellied... I'm not reading that, but you guys can. That's where we're going to end this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you get notified of my videos. Let me know in the comments down below how much you enjoyed hearing Stephen Ellis, the conservative, called Justin Trudeau a narcissist. That was just pure gold. We're going to have to clip that one and bring it back multiple times. I'll keep bringing you guys the honest, real news. We'll keep fighting for freedom. I'll see you guys on the next one.